John and Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Shampoo.
All right, let's return to one of our favorite subjects of 2011, which will be one of our biggest fights in 2012 to stop the California high-speed rail project. We are so desperate to do this. One of the first things you may hear us do in 2012 is take the show to Chowchilla. Can you imagine?
That's right. We want to see.
Look it up. Find out more about Chowchilla. What a lovely place.
We want to see the end point of the rail line that they want to build over the next few years and spend billions of dollars of our tax money on it.
You're a liar, though. You just want to get to that women's prison. I know you.
Is that Chowchilla's the women's prison?
I think so.
Yeah.
Wasn't Corcoran the men's prison and Chowchilla was the women's prison?
That's right. And Borden is the Chinese cemetery. We got to keep all these destinations straight.
And they're big for
these are all these are all the early endpoints of the high-speed rail project.
Well, we bring you the latest lie from the High-Speed Rail Authority. There have been a billion of them, but this one's a whopper. The San Jose Mercury News reported that the High-Speed Rail Board, which had announced there would be 1 million jobs created over the construction of this project in its 22-year run, this vast high-speed rail project, they did their own investigating and said, no, maybe 20,000 to 60,000 jobs.
All right,
so there's a bit of a discrepancy between those numbers. It reminds me of Florida's million trees that's going to be planted. This million number just rings with people.
Absolutely.
It's like you said, that's why they kept using all nines in their numbers, right? The original project, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to exceed.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Zaragoza had the million trees, which turned out to be 400. He had the million potholes that he was going to fill, which turned out to be 58,000, I think. And even that is probably a lie. I mean, it's hard to list all the lies in one show that these crooks at the California High-Speed Rail Authority have propagated. Let's start with the original cost. It was supposed to be $34 billion for the entire rail line. All right, up and down, side to side. By the time we got to referendum day in 2008, it was $43 billion. Now we find out it's $98 billion, but really in the fine print, it's $117 billion, and that doesn't include the leg to San Diego and Sacramento, so it's really $180 billion, not 34 or 43 or 98. It's $180 billion to build the whole thing. Then they said that there was going to be a certain amount of ridership. They have vastly downsized ridership expectations. Then they had to dramatically increase the anticipated price of a ride ticket. And they also said that the train is going to take at least 14 extra years to build. So they lied about how many riders they were going to get. They lied about the ticket price. They lied about how long it was going to take to build. And they lied about how much it was going to cost. It's going to cost about 6 times as much as they originally said. And now we come to 1 million jobs they promised. 1 million.
Here's their response to the Mercury News investigation. The California High-Speed Rail Authority has backed off the 1 million job figure. That doesn't refer to the number of workers. Why, you poor journalist. Once again, out of context, you got the story wrong. It refers to an economic term known as job years. For example,
I've never heard of that term.
Well, one person working 10 years equals 10 job years. And that's how you could get to 1 million.
Well,
so every year you work is counted as another job. So, for instance, we've been back here at KFI for 10 years. You and I together have had 20 jobs, John.
20 job years.
To be credited for, job years. But they've been interchanged to the point where state leaders were out there telling people, I think Jerry Brown's jobs people were out there telling people it's going to create 1 million jobs. They never stopped and said job years. So reporters would look up and go, oh, what does job years mean? I mean, everything got interchanged. And that's what the high-speed rail is saying. Oh, you just didn't pronounce it totally correctly. It's job years. We always said that.
Okay, but here I take issue with that. Because according to the Mercury News, it looks like they're only going to have 20,000 construction workers.
Yes.
And I think when we hear that jobs will be created to build the rail line, we assume they're talking about construction jobs. Well, if it's 20,000 and not 1 million, then these people would have to work for 50 years to get to 1 million job years.
It's 22 years.
Right.
Roughly, it's supposed to be a 22-year construction project.
Well,
and they're not all going to work 22 years anyway.
No, they're not. But they would to get to 1 million, 20,000 times 50 would get you to 1 million.
That's why they're going to back off on that million number.
Right. So
either as job years or as jobs. Either way, they've realized it's not going to work because it's another lie.
Here's part two of the lie. They had also used job years to add up the number of spin-off jobs that they thought outside companies such as restaurants and retailers would create to support the project. They claimed...
You mean all the people clamoring off the high-speed rail chain would run into that new restaurant and they counted those jobs?
Oh, the Chowchilla restaurant district.
That's right, the big... The big claim jumper that's going to open up there. That would take me there.
Oh, you would go to Chowchilla if there was a new claim jumper. And maybe like the Borden shopping mall that would open around the Chinese cemetery. They estimated in one of their lies that 40,000 workers, 2/3 of the project's total jobs, would be employed in spin-off jobs in a typical year, even in secluded areas like the Central Valley farmlands. In other words, they claim not only are you going to have 20,000 construction workers, you're going to have 40,000 other jobs created. Now, most of this railway runs through empty land. So where are the jobs that are going to be created? It's going to go through just hundreds of miles of empty land. I mean, there isn't much between L.A. and San Francisco, is there?
There is not. No.
Or Bakersfield to Sacramento. Let's look at that.
No.
There's no shopping malls that are going to be built. There's no restaurants. There's no nothing. How would it be built up? You're on a bullet train going 190 miles an hour. What, are you going to pull the cord and stop to buy a cheeseburger?
Or then I thought maybe it's to feed the workers. There would be jobs created in the food industry to feed the construction. I couldn't figure that out either.
40,000 food jobs to feed 20,000 workers.
I don't know.
They just lied. It's the million trees, the million potholes, the million high-speed rail jobs. They just made it up because the average person wouldn't know. Well, how does anybody know? Is it a million? Is it 10,000? Who knows? Sounds good to me. A million new jobs? Yeah, I'll vote for that. Wow. They are such stinking ugly liars.
By the way, I took a look at some information on Chowchilla if we do go there.
Yeah.
It's 18,000 people, yet it does have 2 women's prisons.
2 women's prisons.
The Central California Women's Facility and the Valley State Prison for Women. But you know what happened there in 1976? The Chowchilla bus kidnapping. Remember that? The entire school bus of children kidnapped?
No.
I thought that was Cahuenga.
No, 1976 in Chowchilla.
Is that the only
26 children and the adult bus driver were taken from the bus while the kidnappers concealed it in some sort of a drainage ditch. And apparently one by one they forced all the passengers to climb into a hole in the ground.
Did they all live?
I'm trying to...
Yeah, they did. I think it was Kalinga. Kalinga is what I was thinking of. But I'm sure...
No, this is Chowchilla. This is different because a guy almost got parole. One of the guys was just denied parole for like the 12th time, and another guy was just denied parole this year. Oh, one guy was released.
Right. That's
one of the kidnappers has been granted parole to be released from prison November 13th.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Of 2021.
So that was the last big news story 35 years ago?
Yeah.
Are they still talking about it in Chowchilla?
I have no idea.
Jeez.
Yeah, by the way, all the victims are okay. They were pronounced in good condition and returned home.
Wow, 1976. Last time we heard about Chowchilla.
That's probably one of the only things it's known for.
You guys are going to be the biggest thing to hit Chowchilla since the kidnapping.
Well, yeah. It's an Indian name, and the name translates as murderers, a reference to the warlike nature of the Chowchilla tribe.
Is that right? Well, there you go. You got 2 women's prisons, you got that children's bus kidnapping, and you got the name of the town.
All right, when we come back...
There must be a bunch of upbeat people living there.
Speaking of this particular first segment they're planning to build, it's Bakersfield to Chowchilla. So Bakersfield's had a lot of interest in high-speed rail, too. So somebody asked the local paper up there, how did one of our politicians earn his money, his public relations money, as a consultant for high-speed rail? You'll be curious to hear the answer. We'll talk about it next.
Listen to John and Ken anywhere
with the iHeartRadio app for your smartphone.